I will be doing the rest of this painting in pieces. So the cloth is one piece, the bottle is another, the reflected bowl is the third piece. And I'm feeling like I want to tiptoe my way toward this bowl and go ahead and get some of these other pieces in that are going to reflect up into there so that I can sort of have them in my mind as I do that reflection. So today I wish to do the blue bottle, and we're going to do it just like we did when I did that demo of the blue bottle and the brown bottle. So we're going to start by painting that bottle brown, and then I'll let it dry and we'll come back and work on it some more. So let's get my brushes out here and get some brown paint mixed up. I do have a black mixed up in my pan from one of my other classes, but that's not really what we were going to use. So, I mean, I might use some of it as a, what do I want to say, as a way to darken this brown, but because that's a mixture of ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. But let's start by making a nice little pile of burnt sienna here, and then I'll worry about darkening it a little bit. And how big of a brush am I going to be using for this? I might need that brush. Okay, let's start with this bigger brush and then move into a smaller brush as I need it. And I need to dampen up my little pile of burnt sienna. Should have put water in here before I started to soften it up a little. Get myself enough of this because that bottle is relatively big and it's going to be dark. So we'll start with a little lighter brown and then add some darker pieces to it. And I have to be very aware that I'm going to have highlights here and there and in these places down this side of the bottle, and so those highlights need to be left white to start with, and also where it is brighter blue I won't have any brown in it either. So there's some little pieces here, there's some pieces there, and all along in here. And you know, when I get to doing it on the reflection, I may or may not work with doing this brown layer underneath because it's a much lighter blue up in there. You can see the light coming through it more on that reflection. A little bit more of this burnt sienna. This part's always a little bit scary when it's, you know, time to start putting the colors on. Okay, so where is my dark? I can start here in the middle, and I don't want it, there's a light place at the very top of that bottle, so, and then when I get to this rim, there's some more light that comes in this rim and sort of circles around, so I'm going to come down and stop at the edge of that rim. And then it comes out. Okay, and then we're dark across. Yeah, right about to there. Actually, there was a little light piece that I should have kept, but I can lift it out later. Come down to this shoulder of the bottle, and this can come out here just a little bit further. That's going to be good. That can come a little further up here too. And this will give me the opportunity to take that out and still leave a little rim of light underneath. I like that. And so these shapes are a lot of what I'm looking at here. There's a darkness right on the edge of this bottle. And up here, and wrapped around that rim. Okay. This is going to come and wrap on around the edge of this bottle. Yes, it's dark all the way to that edge. And all the way down to this label. So as long as I've got that label marked correctly, and it comes back in a little more of a triangle back in here. I'm seeing a cut through. Keep that a nice edge. Cut through, dark there. It's going to have a little dark line that runs down the edge of that bottle and around the throat. So these are all those reflection things that, you know, we're talking about, and, you know, how do those reflections form the shape of the bottle? And I'm seeing some places that are a little more blue in here, so I need to not put brown into that. We're going to just paint, although that label is brown, I'm going to just paint up to the edge of it for right now, because I want to make it a little bit more yellow. Okay, and now this has to sort of soften. And I'm going to put just a little bit of darker in here to make this a darker brown, because this is pretty black down in here. Shape of that label. And there's more blue showing down in here. There's a space right about here. And then I'm just looking at this as I'm going, trying to think about how this darkness works. So where it's the darkest, I want to be sure that I have brown, and I can even add a little bit of that. I want to keep that so that that's consistent through there. It's all pretty dark here, so let me just put a little more brown into here. And it comes dark against that cloth. See, now this might have been a reason to have done that cloth first, but I didn't. And then I've got a mark across here. And this is dark all the way down into the bottom of this part of the bottle. And then let's get some darker, and you know, that's part of what this is. If you remember correctly, there was still a little bit of rose water in that bottle, which then is making some darker spaces down in the bottom here. And we can see through to the bottom of the bottle just a little bit here. And I want this to be somewhat soft in here, so it's good that I'm doing it on the wet so that the edges soften out. But I don't want a lot of lines showing. Okay, it's starting to look like a bottle already, isn't it? We could have a little bit of this brown come up. Right to there, a little wrap, a little darkness under that lip. And then this lip up here, There's a lightness under the bottom of it, but it's pretty dark. Okay, let's see, and this still needs to come, yeah, I'm gonna have to take brown pretty much out to this edge. There is a little lightness. And this edge needs to be nice and smooth. All right, so I think I'm gonna need to let that dry before I do anything further on that bottle. Although I could put a little more brown right here on that cap. And the bottom of that lip could be a little bit darker. And I think that needs to, okay. I'm gonna just put a very pale bit of brown in underneath of here because that blue on this side grays out. And so a little bit of brown underneath of it is gonna help that grow gray blue. And there's still light right on the very edge, and none of this is very dark, so I've got to be careful about getting this too dark. Okay. Time to stop on that. Time to stop on that, yeah, okay. Let's stop. So I worked relatively wet just so that the colors would blend more and my brush marks wouldn't show as much. I've got a bit of brush mark here, but I'm going to be putting a lot of blue over the top of that, so I think we're going to still be okay, and those won't show as much. I think it is now time for me to stop on this, let this dry, and then we'll come back in and we'll put the blue in. All right, so the next part is to make this a blue bottle. I needed my photograph close by because there's so many little details I really need to be able to see it as I'm working. Let's see, and I mixed that. I have a squirt of ultramarine blue directly out of the tube that I'm mixing up to make a pretty thick blue, and then I can always thin it where I need it thinned. But if I don't have it pretty thick, it's not going to cover that. So we're making it pretty thick here, and then I'll thin it where I need to in the bottle. And then we can always come back in with a black on top where we need it. But let's go ahead and start with this. And I need to keep in mind what I have to keep white. There's going to be a little bit of a light area there. I'm actually going to have to thin some of this blue here in a minute, but for right now I'm just going to leave it thicker. I can always thin it down, and then it goes around that edge of the bottle. And let's see if I can come right up onto there. And let's just take it right up and onto the top of that cap. Okay. We want those blue. It's going to be blue all the way out to that edge. And then I come right to the edge of my label. There's a light area that I need to keep. It's pale blue. But there's another area down in here that's almost white, and then it comes almost to zero. That's better. And I'm going to have to lift a little bit as it comes down over that shoulder. I did a little tiny bit of work on this bottle without you guys watching. I thinned it out in a couple places where it looked like I wanted the blue to show through a little bit more than what I had. I also came in and painted this label with a mixture of New Gamboge burnt sienna and blue, a tiny little bit of blue to make it a little darker on the one side. And I need to keep moving on this. Let's just keep getting this on here. And this has there's a white area, but there's also a blue area. So keep moving on this, Margaret, and I hope you mixed up enough blue. I might need to actually mix a little bit more. It's using quite a bit with it being this thick. I'm just trying to follow the contours of the bottle as I paint this on here. So this is just straight blue that I'm putting on. It doesn't have any brown mixed into it, unless I'm picking up some accidentally. Let's just mix a little tiny bit more here. I had some fresh paint in my palette down here further, so we're able to use that. Just take that up and into this dark area. Don't want those brush marks showing. If I need to lift a few places to make it a little lighter, I can, and there's actually some blue that comes out and onto this cloth right there. So I'm going to just let that run out and into there. Just trying to have this so that the paint is thick but wet, so that it moves really nicely in here. I love how this turns into a blue bottle after being a brown bottle. It's pretty dark down here at the bottom. I can do these sideways. Okay, now to pick up some of these spots on the side. This is an area where there's some really very sharp lines. And also another little color in there. There's a purple that's coming that I see. Darken up blue on top of that so that the brown doesn't show as brown, and bring this blue over, but I'm going to put just a touch of purple in it. Some little reflections here. And I need a little more of the rich blue. Let's get a little more off my pen. This needs to be a little richer right down in here. Okay, and then this is not pure white here, so I can just come in and just pull a little, and then I need to make this a little lighter right here, and a little lighter there. Let's make this line right here, this shoulder, pick a little of that out to make it a little lighter. And there's a lightness that comes into this label right here. But I have to be careful not to get the blue into the label. This label, I'll have to come back in and do some more work on it. Let's see here, this needs to be a little bit lighter right here. And a little more feeling of blue right there. Light around that side, but it's not white until we get around the corner. And once again, a little bit more rich blue. These little pieces of richer blue. Maybe that's going to have to dry before I do anything more with it. And maybe lift a little bit right here. Blue back in on top of there. Okay, leave it alone. And let's see, this blue right on this area could be a little lighter and go over into there a touch. Same with the lid. The lid is light but not white. Break that just a tiny bit. Rinse that brush, dye it. So be sure we're light enough there that that's going to work. And there's a darkness. Maybe I need my smaller brush to do this. Just right on this shoulder. And the lip of that bottle out there. Okay, I'm going to take a smaller brush and just find a few places that are black, and I have a mixed black here, same mixture, burnt sienna and ultramarine blue, but it's a pretty neutral black. Ooh, I see something else I need to do here. Well, it's going to have to wait until it dries. Okay, I think I should, well, except for let's make this a little nicer here at the bottom. Smaller brush, I can get in here and get that edge done nicely. Okay. And, oh, let's soften the edge of this glow. Now I could come in, and I think I will, just because while we've got blue on our mind, let's go ahead and put some of this blue into my reflection. I'm not going to, I'm just going to put it in lightly and then come back and enrich this more later. Find some of the darker places, but this will help me identify where that blue is going to be. And then down in the bottom, there's another section here where that blue comes through and on the base. Oh, and a little bit right here. And oh, the bottom of this bottle, this reflection up on the bottle, the label is actually a bigger portion of it than the bottle is. I think I better step away from there before I start doing too much, because there's more detail that I could put up in there, and I also don't want to get my hand off into here. But I do have a little section here. And let's just make sure that lid is straight up there and square when it hits the top, and that this is a little lighter, and this one is actually a light gray rather than blue. And this has gotten a little too dark right in here. Let's lift that out just a little bit more. Okay, I need to step away from this. I'll start fussing it too much. Although there is just a hint of pink. This hint of pink over here that I like, that's in the photograph, and it just sort of gives us a little shift. And there will be hints of pink in there too, but I'm not painting any of that right now. Okay, Margaret, you need to step away from that bottle. So the things that we were looking at on this bottle was these very sharp, shiny separations between light and dark, but then also how it follows the shape of the bottle and how there's some very dark areas as well. And you know what this light is across the lip of the bottle and how that also works through here to make all of this look like the bottle. And oh yes. There's one other thing I needed to do. That had to come all the way across there. That's better. Okay.